there are so many different kinds of people and so many different perspectives, and that it's so important to expose kids to that while they are young and malleable. If you could go back in time and give your younger self advice, what would it be and why? I just love this question. I think that this is like a question that everybody should ask themselves, you know. It's Amanda, and as you guys know, I made a video a couple weeks ago asking for questions to do a Q&A from you guys, and I wasn't sure if I would even get any. I'm a really itty-bitty tiny YouTuber, and I didn't know if I had even enough subscribers who would be interested, but oh my gosh, you guys gave me some awesome questions. I was like, oh man, I've had to think about these. These are really good questions. So without further ado, let's get on to these questions. Now forgive me if I'm butchering your nickname, but I know you go by Tattoo. Is it Tattoo? With praying for baby number 3, and she asks, will you guys be trying for another baby? And the answer to that is we are kind of unsure about it. I remember one point in time I thought that maybe I wanted to have 4 kids. Now actually, with the reality of being a mother and just like the financial reality of having kids, I'm not sure that 4 is going to be feasible for us. I do want to have somewhat of a larger family by today's standards. Our thoughts on the matter are that we are, you know, just kind of unsure. Like, part of us feels like maybe we are meant to have a 3rd, but at the same time, like, you know, we have our hands full with 2 right now. We're very busy, and we feel like if we do have a 3rd, we probably want to wait a couple years, just because having 2 within 2 years is, you know, going through the extremely early phases of childhood with 2 of them, it's a lot of work. So, you know, we're thinking that if we have a 3rd, we'd like Sophie to be, you know, around 3, when that happened. So, give or take. If we decide we're going to, we'd probably start trying, you know, after her 2nd birthday or so. But we're just kind of waiting and seeing, and, you know, when we feel like that time is approaching, or for some reason, you know, if I get pregnant, even though we are attempting not to get pregnant right now, if I were to, we would totally lovingly welcome a 3rd baby before that. If between now and then we really feel like some sort of, like, you know, nudge from God or something that, like, now's the time, then, you know, maybe we'll follow that. But, you know, that's kind of the plan. Wait and see how we're feeling about it when Sophie's about 2-ish. If we do have a 3rd, that will probably be our last. So anyway, that's our answer to that question. My friend Lauren from Yay Lauren asks, number 1, if you're planning on having more kids, just discuss that one. And do you plan on being a stay-at-home mom when your kids are in school? That is a good question. I am a massage therapist, and one of the advantages of choosing to be a massage therapist is that it is an extremely flexible career to have. And that was one of the reasons, I mean, I chose it for many reasons, but that was one of the main reasons I chose it, was because I knew that having a family was my number 1 priority in life. So I, you know, I'm thinking that, you know, maybe within the next year or so, it really depends, see, on whether we have a 3rd child or not, because, you know, I kind of don't want to get started with it again, you know, only to, you know, find myself in a position in another year or so of being pregnant should we decide to have a 3rd child. And just because I know, having been through it twice now, the physical demands of pregnancy and how extremely difficult it is to continue massaging when you are extremely pregnant, or even when you're just a little pregnant, or even in the first trimester when, you know, I tend to get a fair amount of nausea and the extreme fatigue, and it'd be very difficult to keep up massage during that time. So as to when I want to start doing that again is kind of up in the air and wishy-washy, but I do eventually want to do that part-time. I don't think I ever, at least while my kids are still at home, I don't think I want to go back to full-time work, but like I said, that was one of the main reasons I chose massage, was because it is so flexible and it's so easy to do part-time. So I think once my kids are in school, I really would like to pursue that because I really miss it, actually. Being a body worker is something that it was really fulfilling to me, and I really enjoyed doing it. And I also value having, an identity outside of just being a mom as well. And I know a lot of people find identity in both being a parent and in their career. And I do value that as well. Once we're done having kids and the youngest one is in kindergarten, then I really want to pick it back up. And Lauren also asks favorite and least favorite thing about the traditional diet. So if you guys have been watching for a while, you guys know that we eat a traditional diet, which is basically how people ate before processed food. We do a lot of the principles from the Weston A. Price diet, which is kind of like the basis for a traditional diet. I would say my favorite thing about eating this way is how good I feel when I'm eating this way. And considering my health issues of the past, most of my life I have had some level of digestive issues. I remember even as a kid having a distended belly a lot of the time. And I'm pretty sure that I had some undiagnosed food allergies when I was a kid. And then I went through an extremely stressful time, towards the end of college in my early 20s. And that kind of triggered a bunch of autoimmune issues in me, to which food exacerbated them. And since then, I am 31 years old now. It's been a decade journey of figuring all that out. And since I found this diet, I guess it's been about 2 years now, it has really just been a huge answer to a lot of the health problems I was having. It's not perfect, not all of my issues are 100% healed, but they are way worlds, light years better than they were before. So definitely I would say that that is my favorite thing about it. And as you know, we solved our infertility issues with it, and now I have 2 kids, and so what's not to love about that? I'd say my least favorite thing about it is that it is, like any sort of non-standard diet, it's, harder to eat that way when you're in public or around other people. For example, you can't just get raw milk anywhere. You go to a restaurant and, most of the meat they serve is probably standard factory farm meat. But because I also have discovered this 80-20 rule, where you follow your diet 80% of the time and 20% of the time you don't worry about it so much, I feel like that has helped me not be so anal about it. Because I don't want to be like one of those crazy food zealots or something. I'm up on my high horse about my diet, whatever. I don't want to be one of those people. I'm just hoping that, people can see that because this diet has changed our lives, that, maybe it can be helpful for somebody else too, but I'm not going to be, a hoity-toity snob about it. And just people thinking that we are being snobs about it, because I really hope to not come across that way to people, because that's not my intent. But I think that when anybody becomes, passionate about anything that is bettering their lives, there's going to be certain people that feel you're trying to make them feel inferior or something like that, and that is totally not the case, like I said, but I get the feeling that people feel that way sometimes, and I feel like that's definitely a downside, because that is 100% not my intent at all. Moving on, Expand a Family asks, will you be homeschooling? Oh boy, this is an interesting one. So here's my thought process about homeschooling. So I've mentioned before that my son Alex, he's 2.5. He's definitely verbally pretty advanced, and I don't say that to be braggy or anything like that. I'm just talking objectively what he's doing. He's 2.5 and he's starting to read. I'm nowhere near being a tiger parent or anything like that. This is entirely led by him. He just has this sponge of a brain, and he's just thirsty to learn things, and he wants to learn how to read. And so I've just been kind of encouraging him and, like, you know, teaching him things, just, you know, teachable moments as we encounter them. And he loves it, and he is starting to read. We are going out and he is like starting to read simple words on signs. He probably has like 20 sight words that he can read now. And he's spelling things. He knows how to spell his name. He can probably spell 20 or 30 words now too. And he's just picking this up by osmosis, even with me just putting in very little effort, and he's just picking it up. Alex, what does that spell? That say? What does that spell? He's good with numbers too, and he's very very spatially gifted. He has a sense for, you know, his love of letters and reading. He sees letters in everything. Like, he'll look at a cloud and he sees a letter. He'll look at, you know, his food and he sees a number. Like, he's just very spatial. Or he'll take like, you know, we have those little magnetic letters that we put on our fridge, and he'll take like a 6 and he'll look at it and he'll say 6, and he'll turn it upside down and he'll say 9. And like, he'll do the same with letters. He'll take like an M and hold it this way. He'll say, oh, it's an M, and then he'll turn it this way. It's a W. So the kid's got a lot going on up here. And I am starting to get a little bit concerned about how well he's going to do in a public school setting, just because I'm afraid that he's not going to be challenged enough, is what it comes down to. I'm afraid that he's going to get to kindergarten and he's already going to know all of the academic stuff that they teach in kindergarten. Granted, I want to say that, like, I really value the social aspect of public school or private school or any kind of school setting. I really think that that's important. I want my kids to be around other kids. I want them to learn social norms, you know. I want them to be, I want them to have a sense of compassion and how to interact with other people. And I think that that can be more challenging to do with homeschooling, although I know there are co-ops and everything, and it's probably a lot better now than it used to be in that aspect. But anyway, the reason I say all this is because I think what we're going to do is try putting Alex in the public school and just see how he does. They do, in the district that we live in, they do have a gifted or a challenge program, and you know, we may end up putting him in it, but it doesn't start full-time until 2nd grade. So, you know, in kindergarten, or maybe even 3rd grade, so it's like kindergarten through 2nd grade, they just like pull the gifted kids out for, you know, like an hour or 2 a day, but it's not a full-time thing. So all that said, I think what we're going to do is we're going to put him in public school and see how he does. We really do live in a fantastic school district. All of the parents that I've talked to who live around here absolutely love the district that we live in. I had an amazing public school experience myself, and so, you know, I'm all for public school. So we'll just see how he does. We're just kind of doing a wait and see approach, and if we feel like he is really struggling because he's bored, and, you know, that just being pulled out for an hour a day isn't enough for him, I am seriously considering homeschooling him. At least for those first few years, and then maybe try putting him back in 3rd grade when it starts as a full-time thing. So that's my thoughts on that. I'm sorry, that was a very long-winded answer, but I have a whole bunch of thoughts, as you can tell, related to my views on whether or not I want to homeschool Alex. And with Sophie, we'll see. I don't know, you know, what her interests are going to be and where her talents will be, and so we'll just wait and see with her too. So she also asks if I plan to return to paid work. I answered that in Lauren's question. And what are some of your hopes and dreams for your family? So, hopes and dreams for my family. Gosh, you guys, this is going to be like the longest video ever, and I apologize for that. There's just so much to say. So, hopes and dreams for my family. Big picture here. I'm hoping to raise kids that have a sense of following where God wants to lead them in their life, and ultimately, you know, having kids that have compassion and have a drive to make a difference in the world. I mean, I suppose that's what every parent wants for their kid, right? And I guess that's like my overarching goal, and same for my husband and I. I mean, that's kind of, you know, what we hope to do with our lives as well. So that's obviously a pretty like nebulous dream that I have, but in terms of more specific things that we would like to do as a family, I would say I'd really like to travel as a family. I think it's really important for my kids to see the world in some way, shape, or form at some point in their lives. And you know, I remember when I was 10 years old, my family went on a trip to Europe, and that trip really has stuck with me my whole life. I also went again when I was 15, and I also went to China when I was 21, I believe, with my parents. And all of those traveling, like globe-trotting experiences have really shaped me. And really, I really think that having that kind of experience is important to help you realize that, you know, this culture that we live in is not the be-all and end-all, like a lot of people in our culture unfortunately think. And you know, that there are so many different kinds of people and so many different perspectives, and that it's so important to expose kids to that while they are young and malleable. Just because I think it's so important to have that worldview, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope that answers that question. All right, Aphrodite D asks, what places would you like to visit and why? So that's a good segue from what I was just talking about. I do love traveling, and it's obviously not something we get to do very much with small kids right now, but it is on my bucket list to at least go to all the major continents with the exception of Antarctica. Who knows, maybe I'll even go to Antarctica someday. But at least all of the inhabited continents before I die. So, so far I've been to North America, Europe, and Asia. So before I die, I would love to see Africa, South America, Australia, and, you know, some of the other like island countries and that kind of thing as well. And oh, we have been to the Caribbean. Bill and I went to Jamaica on our honeymoon, so I guess that counts too. Just on a smaller scale, I would love to travel the US more as well. Anyway, I probably won't hit all of those places in my life, but even if I get to a few of them, I will be happy. Oh, she also asked, this is an awesome question, if you could go back in time and give your younger self advice, what would it be and why? I just love this question. I think that this is like a question that everybody should ask themselves, you know? So I think what I would tell my younger self is, there are a handful of things. First of all is be confident in yourself. I mean, I think this is a really common one that like, as you get a little bit older, you like realize that all of the drama and stuff that you left behind from your, you know, adolescence is just not worth it. And you know, there was so much time spent feeling insecure, but now that I'm in my early 30s, I am so glad that that is behind me, and I can see that like I am a valuable person in myself. I can like see the gifts that God has given me, and I am happy to embrace those now and like be confident about them. I don't need to be shy about them. I don't need to feel insecure about them. Obviously, you know, everybody has insecurities, and I obviously have my own insecurities, but I feel like they don't overpower me as much as they did in, say, like my teenage years and my early 20s. So I would tell my younger self, just be yourself. I know it's so cliche, but it's so true. Just be your authentic you, because like the world will see that and will know when you are being authentic, you know? Anyway, that's one thing I would tell my younger self. The other thing I would tell my younger self is, when I feel like I'm getting some sort of nudge from God about something, follow it. Because there were definitely some mistakes that I know that I made when I was younger that like, and I knew, I had that nagging voice in the back of my head like, this probably isn't the greatest idea. Maybe this is not the path that I should be going down. But because of ego, because of insecurity, I went down those paths anyway. I mean, nothing like majorly bad, you guys. But there were things that caused me a lot of stress and heartache, and thinking back, like I feel like I heard that voice at the time, but I just smothered it and ignored it. And, you know, I really feel like things could have been a lot better had I listened. You know what I mean? If you are attached to something in your life because you feel like it's what somebody expects of you, or you're afraid that you won't find something better later, but you feel like God is nudging you elsewhere, trust God. Don't trust your own fears because what God has is so much better. I feel like my life now is like so much better than I could have even imagined 10 years ago. Those are my two biggest pieces of advice to my younger self. And number 3, she asks, what's one food you can't live without? Gosh, what's one food that I can't live without? I can't live without pie. Seriously. Pie is my vice. I love pie. Any kind of pie, and it's like my kryptonite. That's definitely one thing that if there is pie in the room, I can't not eat it. Aphrodite, you have some good questions. Oh my goodness, I'm really having to think about these. Number 4 is, what is your favorite video that you have uploaded? So I've been really trying to think about this one. I don't think I have one favorite. I'm gonna have to like say a few. Even though they are not my most popular videos, I really like the day in the life videos that I've done, because they require a lot of creativity for me to put them together, and, you know, putting music montages to them and editing them and whatnot. It's really been a fun creative thing for me to do. Even if other people don't enjoy watching them that much, I really think that my husband and I and my kids will really enjoy looking at those when they're older. They're just really valuable to me. Those memories, just the fun things that we were doing at that time, and how cute the kids were at that time, you know, and the things they were saying and how they, you know, were acting. I think that those are just going to be really great long term. Aside from the creative memory aspect of it, in terms of my like informational vlogs, I really like my infertility and food videos, because those were 2 of the very main reasons that I started doing YouTube in the first place, because those things are interrelated, like I mentioned earlier, and I just really feel like they can be helpful to somebody, and that is my main goal with YouTube, is just being helpful to somebody. I'm also really glad that I did the pregnancy vlogs, because I think that it might be interesting for Sophie one day. If she chooses to be a mother one day, I just hope that maybe they will be interesting to her, just seeing how my pregnancy with her was. I just think that, you know, living in the age that we do, like I didn't, you know, my mom wasn't vlogging when she was pregnant. There was no such thing back then. So I just hope that it's cool for her one day, and I think it'd be fun for me to look back on as well. So, and hopefully those will be helpful for the people watching those too, and some of the complications I went through. Yada yada. I'm hoping that those are helpful to somebody as well. So how's that for choosing one video and then picking like 20?